Salamun alaikum. How are you? Welcome to the class. Uh, I'm sorry for my delay, part of my delay because of waiting for attending your friends, but the main part of it is about my uh, program. Okay. Dear friends, in this session, I scheduled a new part of this course as part I told before. I want to start the part 3. As I told before, the part 3 is about design patterns. But there is some problem to starting this part. All is about your uh, works, your implementation of the ATM case study. Before I start the main part of this course as design patterns, I present a mini project, a case study, ATM case study to be familiar with the most principles of object-oriented programming. But uh, I see from your work, from your implementations, that you are not uh, familiar enough with these skills, with the programming skills, because most of you has have sent me some incomplete programs in previous session. I remarked this, but till now some others has sent me uh, new versions of the ATM case study, but all of them are incomplete, are just about the main class. In that case study, we have about 10 classes, but I see a single class in your presentation. I wondered so many by seeing your implementation, and I could not start the third part. Uh, Let me check one or two of your implementations and compare with our design. One of the goals of investigating the cases, that the ATM case study, is to be familiar with some design principles. Uh, Let me share my screen to see to see our design and compare with your implementation. If you are not able to implement, to provide a fully implemented version of your system, it's not possible to continue uh, within the part 3, because the part 3 is so special and need to be fully familiar with object orientation principle. The language of programming is not important. You can program with C++, you can program with Java, with Python, with C Sharp, no matter with which uh, language you can program. But you should know enough about object orientation. Uh, Let me compare one or two of your implementation with our design. As you know, the final version of uh, ATM case study, as you see, is shown in this figure. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 classes in this case study. But for example, note that uh, in this is a um, implementation of one of yours. Suppose uh, among 11 classes, this implementation has just one class, bank ATM, and excuse. I'm sorry. In this implementation, as you see, we have just one class ATM bank and a very long main uh, method. Just one method is implemented in this class, and this is not uh, relate our design. You should map this design entirely to programming environment. Into programming environment, you should define exactly 11 classes. uh, I'm surprised by seeing your implementations. I wondered, I'm very worried about this course, because all sessions that I talked about the object orientation, talked about the ATM classes. We have investigated several designs. Several principles are used in this case study, but none of them are used in your uh, implementations. I'm so wondered. Uh, I hope you revise your work and refer to our videos, our materials, our slides to see uh, how you should implement this case study. If you cannot implement this case study, you cannot pass this course. Okay, so I cannot start the third part now, because you are not familiar enough with uh, thought principles. You are not familiar with associations between classes. You are not familiar with uh, inheritance, with polymorphism, with uh, aggregation relationship and composition relationship, because none of your implementation use these principles. Okay, there are some other implementations in our WhatsApp uh, app from you. All of them started with the main method and just define a menu. It's not enough. Why this design is implemented by you? Most of your implementations are copied from some weblogs. They're not enough. I don't see any details of introduced classes. There are several implementation. All of them are the same. I cannot continue this course by these exercises that you have done. Okay. Um, I'm sorry by talking with these statements. I'm very sorry, but you should do your exercise exactly for next session. If you make a good experience by implementing this case study, you can uh, continue to learning the extra lectures remained in this course. The third part of this course is very important and so complicated uh, in some lectures. They are needed to know enough about object orientation um, to make more trust about this uh, talk. I refer to design pattern introduction made by Mosh Hamedani in online in YouTube. I strongly suggest you before next session you see this video. This video concludes all principles that we have learned in this course till now in first half of the video. In the next in the second half of the video just introduces two design pattern, two simple design pattern, and this video notice you uh, what is the importance of design pattern, what is the necessity of design pattern in software engineering, and how design patterns help us in developing more flexible and more modifiable system, more extensible systems in practice. Okay, so let me show you some parts of this video and uh, make a discussion. Uh, Excuse me, this not to this video. Please note that the main goal of this course is to develop reusable and extensible softwares, and this could be done by object orientation point of view. Okay, so the main goal of this course could be reachable if you done your exercises completely exactly and you could be familiar with those principles that I taught for you. Uh, Please note to the next. The first prerequisite of this course, of design pattern course, as part of advanced software engineering course, is more than 3 months programming experience is needed. I noticed that you have no experience in programming. In your implementation, I completely noticed that you have no any experience in programming. But also, we I guess this situation in the first of course, and I designed the first 2 parts of the course to cover this shortcoming. In the first part, I um, designed a case study for you and talked about it with enough details in details, and make a simple design by using most common principles of object orientation in all that are used in all projects to cover this shortcoming. I know that you have no experience in programming when I starting this course, but to cover the shortcoming, I designed about 12 sessions. I wish you set a time. You can set a time to cover your uh, shortcoming, you to doing your exercise, and you can be familiar with those principles that I taught in the class. The next prerequisite. Can you hear the voice of the video? Can you hear the voice of the video? No. Uh, After the first prerequisite, he said that there is no important what language you are working. It just needed to be familiar with one object-oriented programming language, and you be familiar with object-oriented principles. This is the second principle to continue with design pattern course, or continue in the third part of the uh, advanced software engineering course. Let's go ahead, and I talked about that in design pattern or advanced software engineering, we are not talked about algorithms and data structures. They are all learned in data structures and algorithms courses in your bachelor degree. Also, he said that we will not build an application, but to make to provide our prerequisites. We designed a case study to build an application by an object-oriented programming to cover the shortcoming of the familiarity with object orientation. So, in advanced software engineering course, I designed recovery parts. The first two part is just for recovery your shortcoming or your forgetting principle, forgetting information about object orientation. So I provided the principle in the class, but you are noticed my talks. You are not able to apply our talks in practice in your implementations. I provided you a fully implemented version of ATM. At the end of, if you see my slides, at the end of my slides, a fully implemented code are provided. I'm so wondered to in when I see your implementations. Let's go ahead. He defines the design patterns. He said that design pattern is to have elegant solutions to repeating problems. He defined patterns. What is patterns? I'll talk it enough next in next lectures. In this lecture, just I want to notice to you that the prerequisite of this course or this part of the course are not provided till now. Let me go ahead and parts of this course that how that show to show how he concludes all to start design pattern. He said that these essentials are needed to go into the design patterns, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. All of them are taught in the class, in our class. uh, these essentials are needed also to start design patterns. As he said, what is classes in practice, how classes can interact with each other, how what hierarchies are used in object-oriented design. All of them are taught. All of them are learned in our class, but I don't see any effects of our thoughts in your implementation. Classes are needed, interfaces are needed, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism, and UML principles. All of them are needed as a prerequisites, as a principles to start design patterns. And in practice, when you trying to implement a project, you sense some problems in practice, and you can find their solutions in design patterns. In design patterns, actually, we will talk about several problems which are common in all projects, and how they should be solved. We provide design solutions, design patterns to solve, to overhaul to that problems. So you should have experience enough to know those problems, to determine those problems, and in the third part of this course, we will solve some of those problems. Altogether, we should learn about 23 uh, design patterns. All of the most common problems in object orientation designs. Okay, so I strongly again suggest you to see this video to see how Mr. Moshhamedani concludes all principles needed as prerequisites of design patterns. All of them are taught in our class before. But if you have not enough time to see all of my videos that I talked about ATM case study, talked about principles, I talked about four lectures of Professor Raman Ramsin about these principles. If you have not enough time to see all of them till the next session, you can see simply this short video, and this short video talks uh, briefly, very briefly, which is needed to our circle. Let me go ahead. This video use a Java programming language to implement these principles. Let me go ahead. In next half of the video, about to design patterns to show you the importance of design patterns in practice. So let me to stop this video and come back to our uh, talks, to our lectures. Uh, Another problem with your activities, let me stop sharing. Another problem with both your study project. In the first lecture, I introduced you some titles, some subjects to do your study project, but almost of you have no feedback about those subjects. We have no enough time. You should, all of you should have a presentation, should do your presentations in our class and talk about your subjects. Some of your friends have sent me some presentation PowerPoint, but they are so introductory. All of them are not at the level of master. Uh, for example, one of my titles is uh, studying about software methodologies. Uh, One or two of your friends have done some have provided some PowerPoint slides about what is software methodologies. This is so introductory. This is not at the level of master. You should, when you want to talk about software methodologies, for example, you should select one methodology, one specific methodology, and go into that methodology very deeply. You should define the philosophy of that methodology, how that methodology solve our problems in developing enterprise systems, and what is the advantages of the principle, why those are advantages. All of them should be taught in your presentation. Your presentation must be so special, not general. Excuse me if I remark some title in class, but when I saw your PowerPoint slides, I'm surprised. I so wondered about uh, uh, your work. Some of them is done by two or three people, but they are so little. It's not acceptable. Please review your program and prepare yourself to have a good activity in our class. You cannot pass this course by these activities. You can do them if you set enough time. This course need more time, but you didn't allotted enough time to do your practices. Some of you just copy ATM from the web and send me. It's not enough. I want to do yourself. I want you to do implementation for my design, not any other designs in the web. There are many, many versions of the ATM case study on the web. They are not important for me. I just want to do, I just want to apply the principles that I taught in the class in your ATM case study. None of you have done my wishes. Excuse me for my talks. I'm sorry, but I sense it is needed before you reach to the final exam, before you elapse the time. You have enough time. You can set enough time to do your exercises. So I don't start the next part. I will postpone starting the design patterns to next session. I hope you do you'll do your implementation and send me and define your study project soon, because in next week's each session, so, about one or two students should talk about their titles, their topics. You have no time to prepare your presentation, to study the subject, uh, and I have introduced subjects at the first session. Okay, I'm at your service. If you have any question, please ask your questions. Your midterm, I postpone your midterm to the next week, not 2 week later. Your midterm and final is about designing a case study. I don't design any question about uh, some topics in our lectures, but I want you apply those principles, those lectures in practice in some case study. I'll define a case study for you, and I want you do you provide a design, an object-oriented design to solve the requirement of our case study. For example, you should uh, determine what classes is needed, what is the relationship between classes, how many associations are needed, how uh, hierarchy, how inheritance can be applied in our case study in practice. Not our questions is not about the text that you have read and you can copy and paste to your answer sheet. In your exam, you should design a new case study, a new system for new problem that you didn't ever seen, and you cannot search the design for it in the web, because I want to design a case study, a new case study that probably is not be searched on the web. So you should be fully experienced, fully practice, do your practice on using the principles I talked about in class and how they can be applied in a real project such as ATM. I talked enough about using those principles in the ATM class. And uh, at the end of the ATM slides, you can see the provided implementation of those classes. Why you cannot use that implementation. Okay. If you have any problem with my program, you can talk tonight. No problem. I hope you do your homework for next session. If you have not any question, let me finish this session.